Hi there. Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Jim Halterman from TV Guide Magazine. Before we're joined by our guest today, I want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational programs to SAG-AFTRA artists. This conversation is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given over $6.5 million in COVID relief to more than 7,000 performers. If you are a SAG-AFTRA artist and you need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thanks for your support. And now, without further ado, today's conversation is the journey of the working actor. And to help us in this discussion today, it's my pleasure to introduce Poonam Patel, who plays Kim on the Netflix comedy special. Hi, Poonam.
Hi.
Michael Greyes, who plays Terry Thomas on the Peacock comedy Rutherford Falls. Hey, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Jordan Christie, currently playing Vern on Paramount Plus's Why Women Kill. Hey, Jordan.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And John Benjamin Hickey, currently playing Colin on the HBO revival of In Treatment. Hi, John.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good. Yeah. So welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here today to share your adventures and maybe some misadventures in the life of an actor. I kind of want to start at the beginning and just talk about those early days as an actor and your desire to be an actor, first of all. Just, where you first got bitten by the bug, I guess. Poonam, I'll start with you. When did you kind of know you wanted to try this, even, whether it was younger or older? When did it start?
I think I've always loved attention. So I was always performing, entertaining, doing impressions of family members or doing Bollywood dances with my cousins. I think I did one play in high school, but it wasn't cool. So I stopped. And then in college, I took an improv class just because for fun. And I loved it. So I did that in college. Even then, I think I was like, oh, this is a fun hobby. And I get to be annoying on stage and people like it. Yeah, I'll do this. But I was actually a journalism major. So I graduated with a journalism degree, started working as an editor in Atlanta, got laid off that job. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll move to New York, try and work at a different magazine. And I didn't really know what to do. And my mom was actually like, well, you always liked comedy. Why don't you move to Chicago and just take classes for the summer, which twist of the century, immigrant mom telling her daughter to act and not be like a doctor or something. So I was like, okay, I just moved to Chicago. I started taking classes. But even then I was still working as an editor. And it wasn't until probably 8 or 9 years ago that then Second City, esteemed comedy theater in Chicago, offered me a stage. And even then I was like, wait, I can do this full time. And so I was working in theater, loved that, was enjoying it. Some reps from LA had come out to see us. So that's how I got my first representation. And that was really exciting. And even then I still was kind of just like, I'll keep working in theater. This is enough for me. I love it. And then I got offered to do the CBS Diversity Showcase here in LA. And so I moved here a month before I turned 30. So I would say my acting career didn't actually start till I was 30, which, that's young in life. But for actors, a lot of people would be like, that's so old. But I'm actually really grateful for it because I think LA can be kind of an insane place. And this, as we all know, this is a crazy industry. And I'm glad that I had a good head on my shoulders and I had established a full life for myself before I started to pursue acting, because I think pursuing this career can also really consume you sometimes. And so I'm really grateful for the way things have worked out.
It sounds like they have. Jordan, what's your story? When did you get started with all this?
So I got started really, I think officially when I was about 17 years old. I mean, I was always a lover of film, always a lover of TV shows, but I never really saw myself in them per se, because I was more of a shy kid, always a listener and mediator, but never really quite the class clown, but always a curious person and very inquisitive. So I guess I really fell in love with the investigative nature of it. But also kind of giving myself the permission to do things or to misbehave in the things that I didn't really have maybe the guts to do, like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I guess I have always felt like I had to like behave, but when anytime when I picked up a script or or took on even a frivolous character in school, it was a great opportunity to do those things. I just kind of first remember just like in a language or literature course, even in high school, and starting to work on Shakespeare in class in high school, and me being actually weirdly excited about it, about like reading aloud and so on and so forth, and really just took that curiosity into trying it. I mean, my parents exposed us to a lot of art, but the idea of it as a career was bizarre. Similar, my parents are first generation immigrants, Jamaican immigrants. So I definitely had a lot of that pressure to be a doctor or lawyer, really more specifically doctor. Both my parents are in medicine. So it was like pretty much certain that that's what I was going to be doing. Until I was like, no, it's not quite for me. I actually there was a second where I was like, am I any good at science? I thought for a second I might have actually been pretty good at it. Took AP Bio and failed. And I was like, this isn't quite for me. And just started leaning more and more into the arts. But yeah, and then with that, I kind of felt like I was like trying to prove my parents wrong to a degree, or like I just felt like I had to be serious about it, because like they had this idea of what I was supposed to do, and I just felt like, well, I'm gonna really go for this thing. And I grew up in Atlanta, and then I applied for schools up in New York, and I got my BFA in acting in New York at a school, Brooklyn College. It was a 3-year conservatory style program, pretty intimate, with like 12 student class size, and did some extra training in London for summer. And, meanwhile, throughout that journey, did some student films like NYU stuff, auditioning, even though the program, like, they didn't really want us auditioning while we were in school, but I was doing some of that anyway. I got my first agent right before I moved to New York, but it was like I would get a self-tape like once every other month, but it was kind of like my first taste to like what it's like auditioning or self-taping. I didn't book anything for a long time, and up until like I graduated college. We had a showcase. I got my first manager and just started working up from like co-star and guest star, and did the New York grind for about 6 years, and then moved to LA about 4 years ago.
Okay.
So, been stacking the chips.
That's you are.
Yeah.
Michael, what's your story?
I come out of theater as well. I actually trained as a classical ballet dancer when I was a young man, and I graduated from a training academy in Toronto, Canada. Joined the National Ballet of Canada. Was dancing in New York City when a leg injury took me out for about a little bit over a year. And so while I was rehabilitating, I went up to Wisconsin, and I started working with this group of actors, because they asked me to come in to be a movement coach. And I really liked their process for working. And it reminded me of what we were trying to do in New York City with the company I was working with. And so I danced another year or so, and then I transitioned. And at that time I was still living in Canada. I moved back to Canada. And my agent, was actually a friend of mine who was just starting out in the business. She said, "You're starting, I'm starting. You want to try to figure this thing out together?" And I said, "Sure." She's still my Canadian agent. And that's nearly 30 years later. So that's a crazy story.
Wow.
But after I started working, I started meeting other actors. And, it was through a great friend of mine, August Schellenberg, really fantastic actor. He introduced me to my reps in LA, and I'm still with them. So yeah, sort of a detour from theater into TV and film.
That's how it happens sometimes. And John, I've talked to you so many times for different projects, but I don't think I know your origin story.
I was just saying how interesting and amazing everyone's journey. You were thinking, is mine interesting? I don't know. I came to New York in 1983, a long, long time ago, nearly 40 years ago now. And I, like Jordan, I loved TV and I loved the theater, but I think I was too scared to admit I wanted to be an actor. I just thought it was too risky. I got an English degree from Fordham University, and I thought I was probably going to go back to Dallas and maybe be a professor, because really what I wanted to do was play a professor on a TV show. Hold on, and I'll be a professor. And then I auditioned for drama schools, and there's several I didn't get into, but then I got into Juilliard. And back then, it really was like a golden ticket. It was like, holy shit, I got into Juilliard, and it was really hard to get into. And after that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. That really was my validation, that, okay, this was the path I was supposed to be on. And I mean, the training was wonderful, but the training is also almost like a different thing than kind of what that place could do for you back then. I think it's a lot different now. Maybe it's kind of the same. But, being at Juilliard, you had access to representation. You would get internships at the Public and be a spear carrier in the summer. And so it was just an entree into the business that was very, very, very hard a business very difficult to get into. So after that, started working in the theater and have ever since, and forays into television and film and all that.
Okay. And Poonam, it sounds like your journey, really comedy kind of found you, and that was just kind of your niche early on. But for anybody that wants to talk to this, how do you kind of find your path and know that you're a comedic actor or a dramatic actor, or do you not think about those things early on and just see where the jobs come from? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Yeah, you know what? It's like we're middle class worker bees. We're like, I just would love a job, we do X number of auditions and you try to get some traction. You just try to get a bit of work, and then maybe that work leads to something else. And I've only, I've been in the game about 30 years, and it's only within the last maybe year or two that I've been in a position where I can make choices at all. You would always take the work that was offered to you. Even if it was, maybe stereotypical or something you'd done before, or something you didn't love, you're like, I'm going to make it better. As an actor of color, we're often faced with, the writing that doesn't come from our community, and we are in a process of subverting and changing it from the inside to make it better, to make it more authentic in some way. So, yeah, for me, I got my first comedy role this last fall, so I take the work that comes my way, and I've been lucky.
Yeah, I think like in the beginning, I definitely, piggybacking on that, leaned into how society or people saw me, because that's what would be on TV if we were allowed. And I feel really lucky to be in a position now where I can lead with how I want to be seen as my authentic self. But that is a privilege that has been earned. Because I think at the beginning, like you're saying, it's kind of designed to have you work from a place of scarcity, which I think sometimes creates a competitiveness amongst maybe your type. But I really, from the beginning, doubled down on a mindset of a win for one of us is a win for all of us. Because I think the system is designed to be like, okay, there's one slot and all of you guys have to fight over it. And it's like, no. If I get that slot, I'm like shoving the door open with my foot and I'm going to be like, everyone get it now, which is a great place to be in now. But yeah, definitely in the beginning, I was probably just looking more for experience just to get in at all. So I was probably more willing to do things that were a little more stereotypical or that maybe didn't quite sit right with me just because I needed the work. And it feels good to now be in a position where even I'm not like the most successful actor out here, but it feels good to be able to have a little bit of power in saying, know I can ask for more.
Okay.
I kind of
Jordan or John?
Yeah, I kind of feel like most actors who are known for their comedy typically have moments or want to do a little more drama, and I feel like a lot of actors known for drama might want to dabble into some comedy sometimes. But I think you know, when you get to that point where you really are known for any particular thing and you do have those options, right. I mean, it's a dream come true to have options, right? And as we're speaking of, like, we definitely operate in the beginning from a place of scarcity, but hopefully, you know, truthfully, we really just want to be able to move from a place of inspiration and like what inspires us, what kind of story we want to be able to be a part of or lend truth to. Like, I think it's a beautiful thing about sometimes how my work has kind of come that has come in a way that speaks to where I'm at currently, and like how sometimes your work and your art can align with where you're at in your journey. I think the business can sometimes maybe put people in some boxes, but I don't think those boxes are like unbreakable.
Yeah.
I mean, just exactly what Jordan said. Like, I had the thing of being in 1992, I think it was 93. I did this play, Love, Valor, Compassion, and I kind of got outed. I'm gay, and I came out because the play was about that, and the playwright was gay, and all the great writers I wanted to work for, they were all out. So I just thought it was like, well, that's what I should do, because to me, those were the cool kids. I mean, I wasn't like somebody in Hollywood poised to become a huge movie star and having to grapple with that decision. But this thing about you guys talking about being your authentic self, I didn't do that at the time because I thought I was brave or I was political, and I was scared shitless. I did not want to be pigeonholed. I wanted to play all different kinds of parts. I didn't know what my type was, and I thought I was better for that. I thought I wanted to do everything and anything. But what's amazing now is when hearing you guys talk, it's like, wow, I benefit from having been true to myself. And I guess that is what it's all about, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's the only way you win anything. You may win in the short game for a little while, you know, but not in the long haul, I don't think. And I think I've been around long enough to be able to say
Yeah.
John, when you were outed, did you worry about that kind of taking over just who you were as an actor? Like, that becomes another thing?
Yes. And will I only play gay parts? I want to play straight parts too. And it's a whole other conversation, that thing, because I believe in representation, and I believe that gay actors should be seen for everything and should be playing more gay parts. But I don't only want to play gay parts. I want to play straight parts too. So there's a double standard there. But in the beginning, sure, I had a lot of fear, and I had agents say, be careful, you know, or you played a gay part last year, don't play one this year. I mean, there was that kind of conversation, which I don't think you can say anymore. And it's fantastic that you can't say that anymore, you know, but I survived it, and I know others who kind of didn't, in a sense. So I'm very, very lucky and fortunate, but just to see how the world is changing now, and to hear you guys talk about, you know, I'm only going to break through the door, I'm going to hold it open for everybody else to come through, is really, really inspiring. And it's why there's so much fucking great work right now. Yeah. When I started out, The Equalizer was the only show on TV. There was one show to audition. It was before Law and Order. And now there's just so many different things, ways you can see stuff, which is great.
I want to ask all of you, what was some of the best advice you've ever gotten it doesn't have to be in the early days, just ever in your career that you think has really helped you? Did anybody ever offer up something that just really impacted you? Anything come to mind? Michael, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, you know, again, Augie Schellenberg and other mentors, you know, like Gordon Tootoosis and Tantu Cardinal, they taught my generation a lot about how to be a professional actor. You know, we get a lot of advice certainly on playing, like try this, try that. You know, your work with directors. You know, doing different kinds of roles. But one thing that's really consistent is the advice that they gave me and that I saw through their lives as professional actors, that being classy is really goes a long way. You know, they treated people with respect. They were kind to everyone. And when you spoke their name, you know, on another show or something, you know, people would go, you know, Augie, love him, love that guy. And so I was like, ooh, that's important. They don't teach you that in theater school, you know. You know, not necessarily, but it's important. And how you treat people is incredibly important in the business if you're in it for the long haul.
Mine is simple, but my friend and mentor, a guy named David Giassi, who's also an actor, said, well, you know, and I don't think he was the first person to say it, but preparation plus opportunity equals success. So for me, it's always been over the years, it's just like checks and balances of like, okay, you know, what do I want? Am I prepared for it? And I think that goes in phases, right? And you know, life happens as well. And we constantly have to live our lives as well. And life, again, informs art. And it's also important for us to have a rich life. But the checks and balances of that preparation plus like opportunity, what am I looking for? And like, am I anywhere near like proximity for the opportunity that I need to get? And yeah, so just a constant checks and balances of that for me.
Okay. Poonam or John, do you have any?
Advice, but the first piece of advice I ever got, which is just funny, is I was in Chicago. It was like my first audition ever, or I had no idea what I was doing. And it was for like a commercial. And I went in, and the first piece of advice I ever got in my career was don't look into the camera. Because I had no idea what I was doing. And they were like, ma'am, can you not look directly in the camera? And I was like, we're not supposed to do that. Okay, got it. That's just the first piece of advice I got. But the best has probably been like, you don't have to do so much. Like, you don't have to try so hard. Like, you are enough as is. And I think that's just good life advice. But especially with acting, transitioning from theater to on screen, it was probably the best advice I could get, because I always, especially in comedy, when it's like you're surrounded by a bunch of like straight white men, like I already stood out, but I felt like I had to do like even more to like keep up with them. And it was just such a relief to hear that like you are enough as is, and they either will want that or they won't. And it's just like a matching game at a certain point too, because there's so many talented people. And I think that's been good advice for acting. And I think that's been good advice for having like a peaceful mindset during auditioning processes, because every audition now I'm like, I can do what I do, and that's literally all I can do. And they either want what I do or they want what someone else does. And I think that helps it not feel so grueling and draining and personal each time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. John, any words of wisdom that you've been given over the years?
I don't know if it was ever advice, but just always the people that I worked with in the beginning of my career. Like I mentioned, that Love, Valor, Compassion. Nathan Lane was the star of that. And I just never seen anybody work so hard. So like Jourdain was saying, like preparation, you know, plus opportunity, plus a little luck. But like, it was always like the best people were the hardest workers. And so it wasn't like a job to be taken lightly or for granted. You worked your ass off, and, you know, that's when the good showed. So it was about work ethic more than it was somebody being, you know, like giving me sage wisdom or anything.
Right. And then once you get representation, you're starting to work a little bit. How much did each of you rely on your representation to get those next jobs? Or did you feel like it's also your job to hopefully find that next job, whether it's through connections or other actors you've worked with? Or do you just kind of let your management and representation take care of it? I know it's a tough one, but Jourdain, I'll put you on the spot first.
Okay. Yeah, so once you get representation, it's a meet in the middle. You know, I mean, I think you set the standard with like what you want and how hard you're willing to work for yourself. And I think you find an agent who's aligned with that and has and can get with the goals that you have in place and how much you may want to work. I think it's about finding a good match, and really somebody who's enthusiastic and who believes in you. But even so, like there's the audition game is truly a skill in itself and is a thing in and of itself. So you should constantly be auditioning, because that is a skill to obtain through your representation, but also I've always been an advocate of self-submitting and finding things within your network just to keep the wheels greased, even if it's not you're auditioning for this thing on HBO or Netflix or whatever it may be, but even like the student films or independent stuff or a play in a black box, just to make sure your instrument is still is ready. So it's all work.
I think for me, my agents were fighting kind of two battles. They were like, there's a young actor, he'd like to get work. He's this age, this is the sort of stuff that we'd love to see him do. And they'd make those submissions. And, just like they would for every actor. But the extra layer is that as an Indigenous actor, as a person of color, we were really limited in the kinds of things that I'd be seen for. It was about 27 years of being in the business before I landed a role that wasn't Native specific. I did play, I played a lawyer, but he was a Native lawyer. I played a cop, but he was, a tribal sheriff. So my reps were dealing with a business that was really quite slow to change. I think it was like 2.5, 3 years ago that I landed the part of an FBI agent in a Netflix series. And I remember being in that audition room and I was like looking for my guys, like the usual suspects, the guys that I auditioned with. And I was like, I think I'm in the wrong room. I had to like double check on my phone. I was like, did I get the right address? Like, what a nightmare. And so my reps and I had to really, we had to be part of a sort of a educational effort on the part of, certainly my community, with casting directors, with producers, with studios. And things are changing, certainly, but slowly. I trusted them immensely. And, we've been together a really long time. So I just trust their work, trust their diligence and having my back.
Can't top that.
Yeah, I was like, you guys nailed it.
Okay. That's great. Talk to me about just networking then. Because when you're on a set, there's producers around, there's other actors around. Do you guys think about that? Like thinking like, I need to make sure I'm not working the room, but in some ways, like these are people that could help you get the next job. Or is that something you have to leave out of your head because you're there to do a job and that's what you're there for? Or is it kind of twofold? I'm not an actor, so that's why I like these questions and just curious how that works for you guys.
I think it's what Michael was saying about trust. If you trust your agent, your manager, then they're always looking for you. And so when you're on set or where, it's not like you're looking for the next job. You're just concentrating on the work. But I also believe that, yes, your agent and your manager does a whole lot of stuff for you, but work begets work. Like people work with you and they like working with you, then they want to work with you again a lot of times. And that's not necessarily your agent. That's because of connections you've made, relationships you've forged, because you're a pro, because you show up and you can do the work. But I don't ever find myself at work anymore. Maybe when I was younger, thinking, okay, how can I turn this into something else? I think because I've always trusted my agents too, which is a great thing.
I'd agree. I think it's like you are just concentrating on the job that you've been hired to do, which I think I still get that feeling maybe because I am still early on in my career, that I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they let me in here, So I think I'm not even like thinking about what's next because I can't even believe I'm here now. But one thing I have learned is that I appreciate about myself and the jobs and environments I've been in, because I think moving to LA was a bit intimidating. You hear how Hollywood is, and I've been really blessed to work with a lot of amazing, genuinely kind people, is you do have to be aware of the impression you leave upon people, because it can be stressful and things do go wrong. And there's a lot of strong personalities on set. So I don't feel like I change my personality, but in certain situations, I am aware of what I choose to engage in. So if, you're in the makeup trailer and there's people gossiping or whatever, even if I'm not participating, just not engaging contributes to the impression that I'm leaving. Because you just never know, you're only, sometimes if you're doing a pilot, you're only meeting these people for a week. And so you know them for a week, but you don't really know them. So I wouldn't say I hold myself back. I'm very much myself, but I am maybe more aware on set of those types of things than I am maybe like in interactions with my friends, obviously, because I think it's easy to forget you're working, especially when you're just like hee hee ha ha being a clown on set. Some of my roles, I'm playing like a crazy neighbor, and it's so fun that it's forget to be like, and also you're at work, so but chill.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys covered it truly. I love like work begets work, and just be genuine, because I think people can sense if you're just on set and you're just like, and you're not genuine, and you're like, I think focus on your work and just be a nice person. And yeah.
Let me ask you this. So when, that your job is done, whether it's a, season of a series or a film, and you have some downtime before the next gig comes along for whatever reason, what do you do? What do each of you do, whether it's working on the craft or just, making sure connections are tight, but what do you do in that downtime? Or is it just relaxing time? Get your head out of it a little bit. John, can I put you on the spot first?
I'll go back to that thing I said before. There's so much content now. There's so many amazing things to watch and be so inspired by. How many great actors there are on TV right now and movies, and also the very slow process of further representation and authenticity, and that movement, which is so extraordinary to watch. So yeah, when I'm not working, I freaking love to Netflix and chill, and HBO and Peacock and and it seems like it's the Wild West now. The frontiers just keep expanding further and further and further. There's always, it used to be like, oh, I've heard of that show, but I haven't seen it yet. Now you're in a dinner conversation, you're like, I've never even heard of that show, and everybody's saying it's the best thing on TV. So I like to watch other people work.
Okay.
And then be really jealous when I'm watching them. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that too. It's just, for me, it's taking in things that inspire me, and a lot of times that is television and films that keep your mind and heart going and inspired. Same through art, through reading, through music. But yeah, just taking it all in and getting that creative engine and heart going.
I would say I probably two things. I take time between acting to create. I'm a writer as well, so I think it's really important for me personally to try and write things that I want to see myself in, because you can't quite wait around for someone to write it, because maybe they never will. So that's one thing. And two, I love to travel. I think it's like really important for me personally to make sure I'm also doing things that have nothing to do with acting, because like I mentioned before, it can consume you. I know not everyone has that privilege, but I think no matter your budget or your situation, like it's so important to also make sure you're having life experiences outside of your work, because I think that just contributes to making your work even better.
What each of them said is so right. Like, being able to sit down and watch a series that you've heard about, and you're like, watch these performances, and then you've got this little moment, and then you can watch them and go, okay. I learned more there than, than in 2 years of my own work, right? So, and then you also need time for yourself. Like, making something come to life is takes like your energy. Like, it literally takes the spark of life to make something stand up. And I remember sometimes, like I come back from a set and I'm like, I am beat. I'm beat.
Yeah.
And, I don't take my work home like in that context, but it's like we made something come to life. And now I have to like regenerate. I have to listen to the kind of music that'll get me ready for the next day. I have to sleep. I have to make food, so there's a lot of self-care when we're not working. And I think that's really important. It's like feed yourself, feed your soul, feed your mind. I wrote my first screenplay during the pandemic. So it goes back to what John said. It's like the best people work hard. And my parents were hard workers, learn from the best.
Okay. God, I could listen to you guys talk all day, but I'm told we need to wrap up here. So thank you so much on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. And thanks for sharing all your stories. I think I love them. I'm sure the other actors watching love them too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.